Okay, today we're looking at section 8.6, which is factoring in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So hopefully by the end of this, you can say I can factor a trinomial in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So again, let's just warm up here first with a couple multiplication ones. And again, the big deal is today that now we've got something, a coefficient with one of our x's. So when we distribute or use the box, if I were to use the box method here, I'd have a 2x and a 4, and an x and a 5. So this would be 2x squared. This would be 10x. This would be a 4x. And this would be a 20. So my factor, or excuse me, my product in the end would be 2x squared plus 14x plus a 20. Okay, if I looked at my second one, if I made my box again, okay, I'd have a 3x and a negative 8, an x and a 3, and I'd have 3x squared, a negative 8x, a 9x, and a negative 24. And this time I would get 3x squared plus 1x minus 24. So what we're getting today, we're getting trinomials where we have an a term, is what we're going to call it. So how do I deal with that when I go to factor? So I know that this box, again, let's remember what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get back to our parentheses. So we know that this box here is going to be a 2x squared. I know that this is going to be a 6. From there, we got to change things up a little bit. So here's the method. What we are looking at, it's called the AC method. So AC. So the A refers to the 2. The C refers to the 6. So I've got a 2 times a 6 is what we're going to do to start the AC method. So you multiply your A and your C term, and you get 12. Okay? Here's what we do now. We look for factors of 12 that add up to 13. So factors of 12 that add up to 13. So 1 and 12. 1 and 12 add up to 13. So that tells me this. One of these boxes is a 1x. One of these boxes is a 12x. Okay, so then what do we do from there? Here's now where we tie in the other type of factoring. So we now look at these two terms going this way, and those two terms we look for what's common. What's common in those two terms is an x. Okay? Then I look at these two terms going this way. What's common there between those two terms? Between those two terms, they have a common factor of 6. So I factor out a 6. Okay, I then do the same thing doing this vertically. So what do these two terms have in common? Well, I know they've got a 2. The 2 and the 12 have a 2 in common. And the x squared and an x, they have an x in common. So that would be my common factor there. Here, these two have a common factor of 1. So my two factors, in the end, we would say are 2x plus 1 and an x plus a 6. Okay? So a little bit more to the method than the one we worked with previously. So let's look at another one. Okay, so I got 3m minus 8m, or 3m squared minus 8m equal or minus 3. So we want to know what it factors into. Okay, so again, I know that this is going to be a 3m squared. I know that this is going to be a negative 3. I know that. Okay, then I go over here, do my side work. I got to do my AC. So my A is a 3, my C is a negative 3. If I multiply those, I get a negative 9. And again, I'm looking for factors of a negative 9 now that add up to a negative 8. So I've got a 1 and a negative 9. I got a 3 and a negative 3. So if I add the first two together, I do get a negative 8. So I know that these two are my factors that I'm looking for. So those two factors then come over here, and one of them then would be a 1x. The other one would be a negative 9x. And then, again, here's what we do. What do these two terms have in common? Those two terms have an x in common. Okay, what do these two terms have in common? Well, they're both negatives, so I know they have a negative in common. And 3 goes into both of them. Okay, so that would be our factor on that side. If we look this way, okay, these two terms I know have a 3 and an x in common. And if I look at these two don't have anything except a 1 in common. So my two factors would be 3x plus a 1 and an x minus a 3. Okay, let's try a couple more. I got 2x squared minus 2x squared plus x minus 21. So let's look again. I know that this box right here is going to be a 2x squared. I know that this is going to be a negative 21. Okay, if I look at the AC, okay, the A is a 2, the C is a negative 21. So if I multiply those two together, I get a negative 42. I'm looking for factors of a negative 42 that add up to a 1. So I'd have a 1 and a negative 42. I know those don't work. I got a 2 and a negative 21. I know those don't work. I got a 3, negative 14. That gives me a negative 11. Not close yet. I would have a 4, no, a 5, no, a 6. Yes, a 6 and a negative 7. 6 and a negative 7 would add up to a negative 1. So I know that my factors that I really want are a negative 6 and a positive 7. Okay, those two would be my factors. Let me just write that a little neater. So this would be then, one of these would be a negative 6x, one of these would be a 7x. And you may ask yourself, well, does it matter where they go? And the answer there would be no. It doesn't matter which position they hold. Okay, so these two, common factor here, that would be a 2 and an x. Common factor here, that would be a 7. Okay, if I look at the common factor here, I know that all I have is an x in common. Common factor here, I would have a negative 3 for a factor. Now, the other thing that I haven't mentioned yet, if you look back to your boxes, these should work out like as if you multiply them. So a 2x times an x gives you 2x squared. A 2x times a negative 3 is a negative 6x. A 7 times an x is 7x. A 7 times a negative 3 is a negative 21. So we have our factors that we need. So we got 2x plus a 7 and an x minus a 3. Okay, let's try this one. So we've got a 3g squared and we got a 32. Okay, so what are the factors that we should end with? I know I got an a times a c. I know a is a 3, c is a 32. So when I multiply those two together, I get a 96. Okay, pretty big number, but let's start. I know I got a 1 and a 96, a 2 and a 48. I've got a 3 and a 32. 4 goes in there. Let me think on that one. 4 goes in there 24 times. If I go 5, no, 6, no, 7, no, 8. What else goes in there? 96 divided by a 6. Yes, 6 and 16. 96 divided by a 6, 7, 8. No. Yes, 8 and a 12. Okay, interesting. And if we look for ones that add up to 20, here's the two I need. So I know I've got an 8x and a 12x. Okay, very good. So now we look for factors. So factors here, this is a G, by the way. I changed my letters, sorry. So I would have a G that is common here. If I look here, the common factor here out of a 12 and a 32 is a 2. No, that would be a 4. Jeez, Mr. Lardy. Okay, this would be a 4. If I look for common factors this way, I've got a 3G and a 12G. So I got 3 and I've got a G. If I look for common factors this way, I know I've got an 8. So my two factors would be a 3g plus an 8 and a g plus a 4. Okay, so you try this one. See what you can do here. Pause the video and then turn it on and we'll see if you got the right one. Okay, so you should have had a 5x squared here. You should have had a 6. Your AC would have been a 5 times a 6, which would have been 30. If you look at factors of 30 until you get ones that add up to 11. So this would be 2 and 15. We'd have a 3 and a 10. We'd have a 3, 10, 4, 5, 5, and a 6. Okay, 5 and 6 add up to 11, so those would be my ones I'd want. I'd need a 5x and a 6x. So if I look here, I know I've got a common factor of a 5 and an x. If I look down here on the bottom, I know I've got a common factor of a 6. If I look this way, I've got a common factor of an x. If I look this way, I've got a common factor of a 1. So what would be my factors? 5x plus a 6 and an x plus a 1. Okay, that's all I have on that. Hopefully it's making sense. Again, it does take some practice. So that's all I have, and that is a wrap.